It's March 2019, and you're listening to the Missouri GrowingPoint Agronomy podcast. I'm your co-host, Pioneer Field Agronomist Jaime Farmer, and with me as always is my counterpart to the east, Nick Monnig. So Nick, welcome back to the show. We're stretching here a little bit through March, looking forward to getting things going pretty hot and heavy there in April. Again, joined today by Greg Luce again, but this time to talk about something else that you're involved with, the Missouri Strip Trial Program. And so just talk a little bit about what the purpose is with the Strip Trial Program with the University of Missouri.
Well, you bet. So the Missouri Strip Trial Program is led by John Laurie at the University of Missouri. And the program is a partnership, really. It's the University of Missouri Extension leads it. It's supported by the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council and the Missouri Corn Merchandising Council. And they both help with funding, and we're working on a number of different projects in the strip trials. We're working on cover crops, corn nitrogen fertility, phosphorus, potassium fertility, also fungicides on corn and soybean. Elevo seed treatment is one of the things that's been looked at. So a lot of different aspects, and there's a lot more things that we'd like to do in the future. But the program is basically designed to be really applied, practical things that we can test with farmers' equipment and answer some questions that farmers are really wanting to know. So it's just a real practical, applied way, but we're using some really neat techniques to monitor things through the season. And that's one of the things that we think separates out the MU Certified Strip Trial Program from other tests.
Yeah, Greg, one other question I guess that our growers would probably have, and what are some of the latest issues that you're working on with growers today or you've worked on the last couple of years?
Well, to start with, we've done a lot of work with cover crops over the last couple of years, and there's challenges. I'm an advocate for using cover crops, and their benefit to erosion control and soil health, but they also bring a little higher level of management, and there can be some issues. Right, so we're trying to answer some questions as to the proper termination timing for cover crops ahead of corn and ahead of soybean. We've had more trials done ahead of soybean, and we really want to get more ahead of corn. So we're learning things about that, and we're also looking at comparing cereal rye, which is the most commonly used cover crop, to winter wheat and to no cover. And we're also doing trials with growers that have been successful using cover crops ahead of corn, and then asking them to put out replicated strips across the field that don't have a cover crop. So we can compare how they're doing it and the way they're having success, and trying to better understand and measure what they're doing because they're making it work. And we really need to get more cover crops ahead of corn, so that's a big target.
So Greg, it sounds like there's a lot of research things that you guys are looking to do and have worked on. So I guess what would be some of the key learnings that you've gathered from the research you've done so far in the strip trial program?
Well, one of the things is on the termination timing trials. We haven't had as many ahead of corn, and we've had, we expect that killing the cover crop, especially if it's cereal rye, earlier is going to be a benefit to corn, and that's been the case. But what's been a little bit surprising is that in numerous trials across the state where, say, cereal rye is going to be planted to soybeans, the earlier termination has had a significant yield advantage. It's about a 2.5 bushel yield advantage, or 2.4, I think exactly, yield advantage, but it's been very significant and consistent that terminating the cover crop earlier has been a benefit to soybeans. So that's a little surprising. A lot of folks plant soybeans right into green cereal rye and get along fine. And that's something that I think works just fine as long as we can get a good stand. There's a lot that we can look at, but those are, some of the things we've learned is just in the termination trials. In going to corn, we've seen that there's challenges with cereal rye. So that earlier timing, and we're trying to understand other aspects. So we're going to look at more strip trials in the future related to nitrogen, either through starter nitrogen or in-season nitrogen applications, to see how that can be a benefit where we're looking at cover crops versus no cover crop.
That's probably one of the more popular questions I've had over the last couple of years, pertaining to cover crops is folks wanting to utilize a cover crop before corn. So
Right.
it's exciting from an agronomist perspective to hear that you guys are looking to generate more data and get some more key learnings in that regard.
Yeah, Greg. So I guess along those lines, you're talking a little bit about some of the stuff you want to do with cover crops ahead of corn. I guess another question comes to my mind is, what are some of the future things that you're looking to work towards? What are some of the other issues you want to work towards next year and maybe 2020?
Well, one of the things that I guess I'd bring up, a good time to bring that up, is that we're driven a lot by our steering committee, and we've got a group of farmers that get together and they help us decide, and we go through a lot of different options and ask them, what do you want to see? That's kind of how we got into the Olivo comparison, is seed treatments have a lot of interest. I think that we'll look at different types of cover crops ahead of corn. And again, to bring that back up, soybean residue just doesn't provide enough erosion control to last us. So where we really need the cover crop is ahead of corn, more than probably we need it ahead of soybeans.
Right.
So we're looking at adding some other studies, looking at different mixes, looking at cover crops that could winter kill on their own, like oats and radish mix type thing, where we'd get the winter kill and wouldn't have to worry about the termination, and probably be easier on that corn crop, for that next cycle. But we do want to answer a lot of other questions. Farmers bring up to us a number of things. One of them is related to seed treatments, is that there's a lot of different kinds of nematicides, for instance, that are on the market now. Which one's best? So Caitlin Bissonette at the University of Missouri, she's very interested in screening those in smaller plot comparisons, because if you're doing multiple treatments, you almost have to do it that way. But then taking some of the best things and moving it out to the strip trials. So there's probably an endless number of things we could look at. We'll rely on that steering committee to keep telling us, do you want to look at seeding rates? Is it fertility rates? One of the things that's been added this year is in the corn nitrogen fertilizer, we'd like to look at plus or minus a given rate. So a farmer rate plus 40 pounds, minus 40 pounds, however that farmer wants to do it. He could choose either way or all three. So we could do 3 strips. But whatever we do, we'd like to replicate them multiple times in the field to get valid statistics on it, and not make these things too hard to do either, because we want it to be something that the farmer can do with their equipment, and that we can replicate and answer some questions that the farmers have.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good segue there, Greg. Kind of to our last follow-up question here would be, for those folks out there listening that are interested in the strip trial program, perhaps want to get involved, how can they do that? What's the process for them to get involved with you all?
They can go to our website, MU Certified Strip Trials, and they can also talk to a local extension agronomist, or they can talk to any of us that are state specialists, and we'd be glad to work with them. So we do have that website, and the regional agronomists that are out in the field, they could contact them for their local contacts. And we'd love to have more farmers in this program every year. And one of the things we've kind of modeled this after is the on-farm network that's up in Iowa. Mm-hmm. It's ran by the Iowa Soybean Association, but they partner together with a lot of different folks, and we've worked together with them so far already. That's a big, widely distributed strip trial program across the whole state of Iowa, and we think this program could build into a program that's a lot like that. So there's a lot of things we could do, and folks are interested, please contact your local MU agronomist, and we'll get you signed up.
So again, Greg, thanks for joining us again today. I think there's a lot of good things that come from the Certified Strip Trial Program University of Missouri puts on. Again, like Greg mentioned, for those of you that want to get involved or are curious on some of the things that the Strip Trial Program's doing, you can check out that website of theirs, striptrial.missouri.edu, or reach out to the local extension office, local extension agronomist. Nick, so again, if folks don't know where to find us, if they can't find us in the field, where should they look?
They can find the podcast at podcast.pioneer.com. They can find me on Twitter at Nick Monnig.
And I'm at the Jaime Farmer. And so again, we thank you all for listening. We thank you for your business, and we look forward to speaking with you again.